Hi everybody and welcome back to another video on the Toon Review YouTube channel, where today Eddie Howe has been speaking to the media ahead of tomorrow night's big clash at St James's Park against Everton. Now, before we go into it, if you do enjoy today's video, as usual, guys, please do hit the like button. It does help us move up the search results on YouTube. And of course, if you're new to the channel and you like what you see, please become part of the Toon Review community by hitting that subscribe button, which is free to do so, and also the notification bell, which will let you know when we go live or we upload. Now, as I say, Eddie Howe has spoken to the media today ahead of the game against Everton tomorrow. Now, we know Everton is a very, very, very big game for Newcastle United. It always is these days. We seem to have this rivalry with them that's come from nowhere. But the big news is from the press conference that he said that Alexander Isak will probably not play again until after the World Cup, which is a massive disappointment for us because obviously Isak, new signing, played a couple of games, really trying to get into his stride in the Premier League, and has been knocked back by this injury, which is a real pain in the arse if you're a Newcastle fan, but also if you're Alexander Isak, because he's wanting to hit the ground running, started really well at Liverpool, wanting to get into the game, looks really good, and we're not going to see him now till probably after the World Cup. But that was later on in the press conference. He started off talking about Fabian Schar, of course, who limped off at Old Trafford, which what we presumed was cramp. It was actually a foot injury. And Eddie went on to say he's fine. He's been nursing a foot injury for a while now. He's managed it very well, but it just reared its head towards the end of the Man United game. But I think he'll be fine. Now, we've already discussed this about, you know, playing Tottenham at the weekend. Obviously, Man United last weekend and this in the middle. So does he make changes for this game? You know, will he risk Fabian Schar? Will he say, right, we'll put somebody else in just for this game? Or will he go with his strongest possible lineup against Everton and know that maybe he can make changes for the Tottenham game at the weekend? But that's the headache that Eddie Howe faces this weekend. This week as well. So it's interesting that he's obviously been nursing an injury for a while. He certainly hasn't given anything away on the pitch to let us know that he's been nursing an injury. He's been absolutely fantastic, Fabian Schar, and long may that continue. Now, the big news on Alexander Isak. Eddie went on to say, we don't think we'll see Alex back before the World Cup. Unfortunately, he's had a setback on his thigh. It's been very frustrating for him as a new player in the league. I thought he was acclimatising well and picked up the injury with Sweden. It's been frustrating for him because he felt really good and he did a lot of work to get fit. It's a real shame because he's desperate to make his mark here, but he's young. He's got a long future ahead of him here, so we have to protect him and make sure he comes back right. Obviously doing the right thing, you know, just making sure that they see this injury out and that he doesn't pick any more little niggles up, because that's the last thing he wants. Obviously, this thigh injury was a little more serious than it was first given away. When he first injured it away on Swedish international duty, they didn't even know if he was going to be sent back to the UK. So they didn't really say anything at the time that it was a serious injury or we had anything to worry about. But obviously it is. Now, he's saying that you know, it's frustrating for him. And I said earlier on, it's frustrating for the fans. We want to see this guy in action. You know, 60 million quid player. We want to see him on the pitch and doing the business for Newcastle. But we understand as well, they've got to be careful with him. You know, obviously he's not involved in the World Cup with Sweden, so he can then get really, really fit over that few weeks that the World Cup's on, hopefully, and be raring to go once we kick off again just after Christmas. So a lot to look forward to see Alexander Isak, but very frustrating that we can't have him on the pitch at the minute. Now, on Maxi, a little bit different. Maxi has had a very minor irritation to his hamstring, but it is the third time it's happened. Although it's a minor injury, because of the recurrence, we might have to be careful with him, but we hope to see him before the World Cup break. So, not desperately bad news about Maxi, but obviously the training, the guys, the physios, etc., are a little worried about, you know, the fact that it's the hamstring again. And as Eddie said there, it's the third time it's happened. So with hamstrings, etc., groins, you know, you've got to be careful, because if you rush players back, as we've seen before in the past with Callum Wilson, you know, the risk injury and the risk long-term injuries, and we can't afford to have players like Maxi and Isak, etc., sitting on the sidelines. We need these guys in the team. They are our best players, and we need them in the starting lineup. But hopefully we'll see him before the World Cup break. Now, on Jonjo Shelvey, who, of course, was called back into the squad for the game at Man United on Sunday, very surprisingly, we are continuing to work with him very hard, but he's still in the early stages of coming back. We're building his load and building his training time, but he's looking really good. We just want to be careful in the latter stages of his injury. Again, being very, very careful with Jonjo. It will be great to see him back. I think a lot of people have realised just how important Jonjo is to this team. You know, playing Bruno in that position doesn't really work. Bruno seems to like to get forward more often. And when Shelvey's in the lineup, that frees up Bruno to be a much more attacking-minded player, which we've seen come to fruition a number of times already. So to have Jonjo back is a massive option for Eddie Howe. And he'll probably be on the bench again tomorrow. Whether he gets any minutes is a different kettle of fish. But I think Eddie will probably want to play him in the Carabao Cup game against Crystal Palace next month. So, but only time will tell on that. But I'm sure we want to get him some game time. Now, he went on to say about the defensive record, he says, it's very pleasing. It's a compliment to the players, and we have very much have the mindset here that we want to defend as a team. Right from the strikers back to the goalkeeper, and you can see in how we've played this season. And indeed, you know, Eddie Howe, when he got the job, a lot of people said, well, he's not a defensive-minded manager. He can't coach defenders. Now, he's got a team around him. I realise that as well. But we've now got the best defensive record in the Premier League. And when was the last time we'd be able to say that about a Newcastle United side? Donkeys. Moons ago. So it's absolutely brilliant that Eddie Howe has really shut these punters up and said, right, you know, we do defend as a team. And we do, because you can see the midfielders, etc., coming back and helping out. The likes of Joel and Bruno getting stuck in defence, clearing the ball. But the defenders are unit, and the back four defends fantastically well. Nick Pope marshals the troops from his goal. He's very vocal. He comes out and collects the ball. He comes out in a sweeper situation. We've got a totally different mindset to defending than what we have in the past seasons, without a shadow of a doubt. And we are very, very difficult to break down. You saw that against Manchester United. They threw the kitchen sink at us last 10, 15 minutes of the game. We stayed very disciplined. Apart from the very last minute when Rashford had the header, they couldn't get through us. They had to keep turning back. They couldn't find that killer pass because we stayed disciplined and in that sort of zone, and they weren't getting past us, whatever happened. So that has to be a massive, massive credit to Eddie Howe. Now, finally, he went on to talk about Sven Botman, and he said, my faith in him is huge. We really fought to sign him, and we stuck to our guns because he was the one we wanted. I see so much potential in his game. He's very good on the ball, but he surprised me with how good his technical delivery has been. Now, we've seen that many times, of course. You know, what he's talking about there is obviously his passing ability with both his right and left foot. He just, you know, diagonal passes across the field. We saw plenty passes diagonal to Kieran Trippier, of course, on Sunday. You know, lots of space. He's calm on the ball. He doesn't panic. He's got a good range of passing with both feet, and I think that's what's really impressed Eddie Howe. But he went on to say he's very composed in what he's very composed in what is a very frantic league, and that is really valuable. Defensively, he's got all the tools. He needs to work and develop parts of his game like everyone else, but I do feel like he's got a huge platform to build and grow into the defender he's going to be. So Eddie can see it, what the Newcastle fans can see as well. You know, we how many times have we already said this guy is just a marshal. He's a leader, and he's a future captain of Newcastle United. The stance he has in defence, the way he plays the game, very difficult to beat in the air, very good on the floor. You know, he's an all-round centre-back, and this guy can go on to huge, huge things. Obviously, you know, when he breaks into the Holland international team, I think he's a future international captain as well. This guy's just got it all. But like Eddie said there, he's got stuff to work on in his game, just like every player has. You know, even if you're one of the best in the world, you still got things you want to work at. And it's good that Eddie's identified that, and he can move forward in the future, working with him. And seeing what this guy can actually do for Newcastle. And I'll tell you something, it is bloody exciting. It really is, because he is going to be an absolutely wonderful football player for Newcastle for years and years to come. And it's great, isn't it, that we're bringing all these youngsters in as well, that will learn from the likes of Botman, Bruno, Callum Wilson, etc. You know, they'll learn from these players. You know, Garang Kuol, when he eventually comes into the squad. they are going to see these players and learn how to behave both on and off the pitch, which is, it's a massive build for Newcastle United, but superbly exciting. It really is. But there you go, guys. That was the Eddie Howe press conference ahead of the game tomorrow night. Let me know, as usual, in the comments what you think. Are you excited about the way he speaks about Botman, etc.? What do you think about the injuries? It's a pain in the arse, but again, it's become a talking point, unfortunately, at Newcastle United this season. But there's nothing we can do about it at the minute. We just have to see them out and get on with it. But let me know, as usual, in the comments what you think. And also, if you're watching this, of course, on Tuesday, join us tonight at 8:30 for the fan forum. Get yourself on. Get yourself on with me and Billy and have a bit crack. Talk about Newcastle United. Talk about what you thought of the games gone by and what you think of the Everton game coming up on Wednesday. And, of course, the Tottenham game. So 2 games to go through tonight, of course, before the next fan forum next week. So do join us for that, 8:30 tonight. But as usual, guys, if you have enjoyed today's video, please do hit that like button. It does really, really help us move up those search results on YouTube. And, of course, if you're new, become part of this Toon Review community. It is a fantastic community. Hit the subscribe button, which is free to do so. Help us on the way to 15,000. And, of course, the notification bell, which will let you know when we go live or we upload. But in the meantime, guys, have a fantastic day. Take care.